Hi, thanks for clicking on my video. Today I'm going to talk about the Gigabyte Radeon RX460 2GB. This is the Windforce overclocked edition. These are quite old cards now, to be honest, but they're fairly cheap to pick up, and that's why I brought it. Basically, I was looking online. I wanted a really cheap graphics card to tie me over for a bit while I was sort of waiting to get either an RX 580 or a Vega eventually. I just bit the bullet and I bought one of these. It's a Vega 64, but anyway, that's a different story. This card is a very, very cheap card. I brought this in nearly new condition from Amazon. It's a smart looking card. Let's show what it looks like. It's got the dual fan design, so it's okay for overclocking, although this card doesn't really overclock very well. It's got a DVI port, HDMI port, display port. It's very compact, doesn't need an additional power supply connector, so you don't need to power it off your power supply. It just takes it from the PCI slot. So that's nice, a nice feature if you wanted something that's like that. When I was looking around, I wanted to be able to play Doom and stuff, and obviously this works with Vulkan, so you get a bit better performance. And I wanted something that I could get sort of more performance out by being creative, or basically by trying to maximise the performance in some way. So I'd read online you could basically unlock the shader units on this to sort of be equivalent to the RX 580. That's like the new revision of this card. So yeah, I brought it, put it in my machine, followed the article online on a tech website, and yeah, it's quite straightforward. It unlocked the 1024 shader units, instantly sort of gave me a slight edge in Doom. You could tell I was getting 3 or 4 frames per second more, it seemed to be. So Doom is completely playable, pretty much in best detail. Mind you, saying that, my playable might be different to somebody who's playable. I'm an old gamer, if you like. I remember the days of Doom at 17 frames per second, 12 frames per second on a 486 SX25. These days, people moan about 60 frames or 50 frames per second. But anyway, Doom sort of plays between in 1080p plays between sort of 20, 25 and up to 60. It really depends what you're doing, to be honest, and what effects are on the screen. So anyway, my first protocol trying to get a bit more performance out of the card was to unlock the shader units. That really simple, super simple. You just download the correct software. That's the only thing. You do the right BIOS to flash onto this card, and you've got to look at the memory version. This is the Hinks memory version, so you just get the right BIOS for that. You double click on like a batch file, script file. It runs. It just flashes the card for you. Restart the PC. That part of it is done basically, so that's fairly straightforward. The more tricky bit is trying to then install the AMD drivers, because the newer drivers they don't allow sort of hacked hardware to run, if you like. So you have to put a specific driver on there that's I think it's 16.10. You can download it anyway. It's on the guide. If you if you go to the tech website, you can sort of get it from there. Or you can download it still off the AMD website. Once that's on there, yeah, the card works really well. It's done, good. It's done a good job, to be honest, for the last few months, and I'll probably try and put it back online and sell it for about what I purchased this from, because they're so cheap, to be honest. When you looked at some of the other cards that Nvidia did, and even AMD's like lower spec cards, there's just sort of no point really, because you're paying like 35, 40 pounds for an extra 20 quid or 25 quid. You can move it to something that can actually play some games. I mean, albeit this has only got 2 gigs of RAM, but yeah, actually I was quite impressed with the quality of, say, Doom when it was running, and also things like just Need for Speed, the 2016 version last year. That plays really well on it. I was quite amazed, actually. And a lot of the games I've sort of put on it, Crysis, yeah, you have to turn it down a bit, but it still ran. It's still playable from my point of view, yeah, it's a good little card, and you can get this extra performance, say, by unlocking the shader units. And then the final thing I tried to do with this, I was sort of determined to try and get the card up to 1300 megahertz on the core clock, because I know that the 4GB versions have an additional power connector, and they do that by standard, basically. That's how they come, but this one doesn't. I think it's running at 212 or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's not actually, it's not as high. So I was sort of determined to get it to 1300 megahertz on the core clock. To do that, you can use AMD Wattman, and basically in there you basically got to put the power limit up full, because the limitation of this card is when you try and overclock it, it just doesn't have enough power because it doesn't have the external connector. So you put the power up to 50%. I didn't really muck around with the voltages much, to be honest, and then I tried to just sort of edge up the core clock, and I got to around, you can take it over 1300, but it becomes a bit unstable, so I got around 1294. And when I was benchmarking it in TimeSpy and some other things, that actually gave me the performance of around about a GTX 1050, not the TI, that is. And you do see when you're looking online, lots of the figures get mixed between the 1050 and the 1050 Ti, but it was the 1050. It sort of was playing about, it was about the same performance of that, and that was the higher Gigabyte version as well. So yeah, thoroughly pleased with the card. It's a good little cheap buy. Yeah, I just recommend it really for what it is, especially pick it up second hand now. So it's a great card. Right, thanks for watching, and I'll probably put another video on my new Radeon RX 64, Vega 64. Sorry, I'll just show you what it quickly looks like when in the computer. I wasn't going to buy one of these, but availability sort of forced me to get one, because especially for the price, this was a discounted one, so it had the £100 rebate, so it's $469. That actually, when you compare it to some of the other cards, what they're charging for an RX 580, it sort of makes it worth it, I thought. Although I will say, it does have its problems, definitely. Anyway, maybe in another video. Alright, cheers, bye.